ask your question. No question? Okay. So,
I have, please, I have. Sorry.
okay, please go ahead. I didn't see your hand up.
I was trying to look for the hand icon. I did not find it.
Okay, all right. Please go ahead.
Okay, so the question is, for that opens up, okay, when I tried practicing, uh, because of that, the assignments, I had to submit my assignments and everything, so I had to work. Uh, well, I don't know for the server or something, but it started giving me a 404 error or something like that. So I don't know if I'm the one that did not get it right or something. So I can learn it like, is it open Zeppelin or like the spelling or the pronunciation? So that I go and try it out again. So I was feeling like more like the server or the domain does not exist or something. Can you like write it out again, maybe in the chat section, so I can just copy it and paste it in my browser?
Okay,
Uh,
it's actually open Zeppelin. Putting it out on the, I'm putting it out on the chat. But also most times, if you don't get it, you can always Google it, and I'm sure you see options there. So it's open Zeppelin.
okay, but
That can,
are there any other sites that does what Open Zeppelin does? So in
yes,
case
of
of
course.
like I want to have multiple options.
I don't know if you were in the last class, but in the last class we used Open Zeppelin and we then used Third Web. And I think Third Web will actually be a lot easier for you. There's also a recording of the class on our YouTube page, Ethereum Nigeria, which you can always use that as reference. All the recordings for the bootcamp are there. So if you have any difficulty, you can always refer to that. I'll take one more question, then does any other person have a question? I'll take just one more. Okay, no question. So, all right, guys, we'll just dive into today's lecture. Today we are going to look at decentralized applications. Of course, last week we looked at smart contracts, which was a follow-up of blockchain and the concept of blockchain. So today we are going to look at what are decentralized applications and how they actually differ from regular applications. So just a minute, let me share my screen so that we can begin. Okay, please confirm if you can see my screen.
I can see. You can see your screen.
Okay, all right, awesome. So, like I mentioned, today we are going to talk about decentralized applications and how they differ from regular applications. So before we actually start, let's get an understanding of what application is. So application is actually a software that actually executes function to do something, right? So basically we work with applications have become a daily part of our life, from our cell phones, applications we use on our mobile phones to do a lot of stuff. Even the one we're using now, Zoom, is actually a software that actually allows us to have real-time video call. So applications generally are just software that executes some functions to perform some particular tasks. So normally in decentralized space, in the current Web2, we see there are tons and millions, if not billions of applications. So what do all these applications have in common, and how does Web3 differ from it? So basically, that's what we are going to try to look at today. So first and foremost, of course, applications have become an integral part of our daily life. But however, they come with a big concern. Most of our data, by data, I mean that for every time you try to use an application, you of course you register, you input your name, your phone number, your address, and personal stuff like that. And sometimes even your ATM card, you input all those information. So what's the disadvantage to that? The disadvantage to that on the user side is that all this information is actually stored in one central place, like um, the people that build the app or the company that build the app actually will have a server where they store all this information. So they will always have access to this information. And though for some people that's not a concern, but for many other people that's a major concern because people like privacy, right? So imagine in a situation where maybe one of the employees of the company that actually holds this data decides to sell some of these data to let's say bad actors. So these bad actors can actually use this information for any purpose, and which of course has been happening over the time. You hear sometimes that Google is down, or this one has been hacked, Microsoft has been hacked, and user information stolen. So all this information are used by malicious actors to actually manipulate and, of course, sometimes steal from the user. So all of these problems encompasses why, of course, decentralized applications are very, very much needed and very, very much essential. So decentralized applications are just like our regular applications. The major difference between a decentralized application and a centralized application is that it is built on the blockchain, right? So it's on a distributed ledger that can be verified, that is secured, and doesn't need you to actually put in all your user information. Like on the blockchain, your wallet address is unique. You don't have to then put in your name, your email, password, phone number, and all of that. So that this autonomous nature of your wallet address allows for user privacy. So you can deal with someone or you can transact with someone and the person doesn't know your name, doesn't know anything about you, but trusting the blockchain that this transaction, of course, will be validated and, of course, will be verified. So you can actually work with this person. So basically, decentralized applications are just like our regular applications, but they are actually built on the blockchain. Also, which offers a more secure, transparent, and of course, efficient way of actually transacting or using applications without releasing your user data to these centralized authorities. So, like I mentioned, decentralized applications are softwares, of course, they run on a distributed network of computers. So, unlike traditional applications, D apps are like D and app are mostly it is a short form of decentralized applications, and most times you hear mostly developers and people in the Web3 space talking about dApps, DeFi, and all of that. So dApps are generally is a general name for decentralized applications. So, like we mentioned, decentralized applications are actually built on top of the blockchain. Of course, they represent a new paradigm in software development where the core logic and data resides on a decentralized network. So, the nature of this network actually, the decentralized nature of this application actually differentiate it from our regular traditional applications because the regular applications rely on a central server like maybe Google or Amazon or Microsoft, but all your data will be on their network for it to, on their server rather, for it to work. So they actually control your data. And as such, sometimes there are things you wouldn't like. For instance, nobody wants to input their ATM PIN and all of that data on a website or on an application. But most times, because of the nature of the application, it's a centralized is a traditional application, means it's hosted on a centralized server, and this those managing this centralized server or managing this application actually dictate to us what we should do. Like if you don't want to input your ATM details, probably you'll not be able to make a purchase. So, but imagine having that kind of application on the blockchain. You wouldn't even have to even bring out your ATM card because you wouldn't need it. Of course, you just need the person's wallet address, and then you can transact with that person. So basically, let's look at how decentralized applications work. Like I mentioned, they are just like our regular applications, but the difference is that they are hosted on the blockchain. Of course, this allows them to operate without a central authority, as I mentioned before. And at the heart of decentralized applications are smart contracts. So every decentralized application is, in quote, a normal traditional application that is embedded in, or rather, smart contracts are embedded in this application. So instead of having this intermediary, the middleman, the Google servers, the Amazon servers, and all of that, instead of having them to actually use the application, you actually use a smart contract, which of course we know that smart contracts are self-executing as long as the conditions are met. So let's look at a typical, let's say an e-commerce site like Jumia. So on Jumia, you order something and you pay for it, and of course it gets to you. You of course before you pay, you have to input your card details and all of that. So imagine having this same Jumia on a decentralized network. So basically, what happens is you connect your wallet. It doesn't ask you for your user information, of course. You just connect your wallet, select the item you want to buy. Then, since it's on a smart contract, right? It could be the logic could be that if you pay for this item, the money actually goes to the smart contract, but Jumia doesn't receive it, right? Until you now receive your item. Once you receive your item, you can then approve Jumia, rather approve the smart contract to release this money to Jumia. So remember, the money is no more in your wallet, and it's not also in Jumia's wallet address. It stays in the smart contract because smart contract can also receive tokens, right? So basically, the major difference in that is that it has eliminated the need for, like, in the normal traditional sense. So if you are trying to make payment on Jumia, of course, Jumia uses a payment gateway. So Jumia will now have to call a third party. And of course, they have to give your information to that third party so that the third party can use it to actually execute the payment on your behalf. You understand? So all of this is, your information is being shared across multiple platforms without you even knowing it, right? So these are some of the things that decentralized applications help to mitigate. Your information is safe. And of course, decentralized applications are not just on e-commerce. There are a lot of applications of decentralized application, which we will see in a bit. So basically, at the core of decentralized applications are smart contracts. So the logic, the agreement of this application is actually written in lines of code. And once it is deployed on the blockchain, of course, it is immutable, so it cannot be changed. So that means that for everyone interacting with this particular decentralized application, of course, before you interact with the platform, of course, you might have read that documentation and you are aware of what the platform does before interacting with the with the platform. And of course, you can always get the address of every decentralized application will always have an address. So because when you're trying to pay or make transaction, it goes to the smart contract, and you can always get your own wallet to confirm that transaction, of which you will see the address of the smart contract. You can always take the address of the smart contract and verify the logic behind the smart contract. Yes, it's possible you can do that, see the code for yourself and verify for yourself that, okay, what they deployed is actually what they said. So that's basically how decentralized applications work. They utilize smart contracts to execute them the terms and conditions of the smart contracts on the application being used. I'm seeing a message. I always wondered how they are built on the blockchain. Okay, yeah, so they are basically just smart contracts that are being deployed on the blockchain. And then users can interact with the application. But this time around, the difference is that you're interacting with a distributed ledger. That means for every information you're trying to get or for every transaction you're trying to make, it's secured, it's transparent, and it can be verified. So before that, we'll look at some of the key characteristics of decentralized application. Of course, like I mentioned before, first and foremost, they are actually decentralized. So this decentralized nature, of course, enhances security by removing single points of failure, censorship, and of course, resistance. So since decentralized applications are not actually controlled by any single entity, but by a network of computers, it maintains the application data and of course functionality because anything on the blockchain is immutable. So even those that build the application cannot go back to change it. So another thing is that decentralized applications are open source. Like I mentioned, you can always get their code and verify that whatsoever they say they deployed is actually what they wrote down. That's the terms and conditions. It's not as if they build it and then they deploy it and then tell you this is what they did. No, you can always confirm looking at their code, which in this context is the terms and agreement of the application or the smart contract. So you can actually look at it and see for yourself that what they actually deployed is exactly what they said they would. So it is open source, meaning that anybody can actually see it. And if possible, anybody can actually also contribute to the code, right? So if the team allows there are some, of course, some applications, decentralized applications that are actually open source. By open source means that the application was left open. Anybody that can write code or can write that particular language can actually contribute to that particular application. So they call those kind of applications open source application because it's open to the public and everybody is contributing, checking for error and all of that. So another thing is, of course, the consensus mechanism of blockchain technology actually is what makes decentralized applications very, very effective because remember, to actually reverse the transaction on the blockchain, you need like at least 51% of the total nodes. So this consensus mechanism actually allows or actually enhances the security of smart contracts, which of course in return enhances the security and functionality of your decentralized application because now you know fully too well that even if people try to hack it, unlike our regular applications that today you hear that they hacked this application or they hacked WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. You can't have all of those things on decentralized applications. Like basically, there's no hacking of decentralized application because it's on the blockchain. So if you try to hack it, that means you need like at least 51% of all the total nodes. And of course, we mentioned tokenization, where I said that smart contracts can actually receive tokens, right? So in the same way, there are some decentralized applications that come with their own token, like there are a lot of them. I think Remitano is one of them. Which other one do I know? Of course, Cassava. These are all decentralized applications. So all these protocols or platforms, what they actually offer is they reward users with incentives in the form of tokens. So, like for instance, Cassava. For instance, there's a protocol called Cassava. So Cassava is actually built on Polygon, and Polygon is a layer 2 on Ethereum, right? So what happens is that they incentivize their users, like you take your phone in the morning, if you are working, they encourage you to work, and then they reward you with their tokens. So if you work for a particular amount of distance, you automatically get rewarded with some tokens. And you ask, how would they know? Of course, your phone has certain features that can allow for body gesture. And as you are walking, of course, the application is actually reading how long you've walked for and trying to get the distance and all of that. But the thing here is that they reward you with their coin, and then this their coin, you can use it on their platform to actually do some stuff, make some order and all of that. So this is a typical use case of tokenization in decentralized application, which of course is very, very common. A lot of excuse me, a lot of decentralized applications also have they use tokens or NFTs to actually incentivize their users. We'll see all of that in a bit. So we talked about the key characteristics of decentralized applications. So let's look at how they actually differ from regular application. Remember, the major difference is that traditional applications, our Google, our Twitter, our Facebook, and all of that, our bank apps, they are all centralized, meaning there is a single entity that controls the information and functionality of these applications. Then on the decentralized application side, they are totally decentralized. So they rely, or rather, they utilize the blockchain to actually function. So in this case, there's no single entity. So it makes transactions very secured in the decentralized part of it. And of course, it's transparent so that you can always verify. So imagine going to a place like Google to say you want to verify who sent you an email. Google won't even answer you, just assuming. Let's say, or say somebody tried to spam your mailbox or hacked your email. So you then send a mail to Google and they will now give you steps to follow. They are not answering your question. And most times, when you follow all those steps, the problem isn't still solved. So imagine another version of Google on the blockchain. So if there's an issue, you can't use your account, or there's something you don't understand, you can easily go to the blockchain explorer and verify what's going on, you understand? So that's the difference, one of the major difference. Another one, of course, is how they store data. So, of course, in the regular application, data are stored on central servers, like I mentioned, but we have decentralized storage also on the blockchain. We have protocols like Filecoin, IPFS, where you can actually store data in a decentralized way. Of course, you wouldn't want to store your sensitive data on the blockchain, but you can still store data on the blockchain in a decentralized manner. This way, this data will always be available for you because there will be no downtime, right? Remember, nodes are computers, right? So for there to be a downtime, that means the whole blockchain has to actually not function. Because if one node is not working, definitely another node is working. So there is no downtime. You always have access to your data. So of course, the third and most important one is that decentralized applications actually use smart contracts, whereas the traditional applications do not use smart contracts. I thought cassava was a crop. Okay, I'm just going through some messages. Yeah, cassava is a crop, Precious, but it's also an application. You can find it on your Play Store or your iOS device. Of course, when you download it, you have to connect your wallet, and there are a lot of features on that. So these are some of the ways regular applications differ from centralized applications. So let's, of course, the advantages of decentralized applications. We've talked about a couple of them. Enhanced security. Of course, to actually be able to hack a decentralized application, you need 51% of the total nodes, which of course is near impossible. So that means the application is always secured. So of course, greater transparency. You can always verify it. You can always check what's going on and all of that. So the transparency is top notch. And of course, there's resistance to censorship, meaning that, of course, nobody can control the blockchain. So there's, for instance, there was a time, there was a time some years back where Twitter was banned, and we couldn't access Twitter in Nigeria except some people that decided to use VPN and all of that. So imagine Twitter on a decentralized distributed ledger, right? So no government can censor it. You can't ban it because it is distributed. To be able to ban it is to actually control the same 51% of all the nodes. So there's no censorship in the usage of decentralized application. But although there are problems with regulations, because especially in Europe and America, most most governments in mostly Europe and America are trying to regulate the blockchain, right? So, but it's kind of difficult because anybody can access the blockchain anywhere in the world. So sometimes an application that is being used in a particular country could be then illegal, right? But actually, not as if it's a bad app or a malicious app, but just because of some of the government policies and regulations, it can be termed illegal, but they cannot actually stop it. But if you use it in the country, it could be illegal, yeah, for some rare cases like that. And of course, it empowers the user because often now the user has total control over decentralized applications, right? You ask me how? Okay, so you've connected your wallet and you're using this application, and remember your wallet, you are the only one that have the private key. So you are very, very much at rest, knowing that even if you go to bed and leave the app connected, nobody can do any transaction on the app unless, of course, you authorize it, right? So it gives the users back the power. They have control over their privacy. They have control over their data also. So these are some of the advantages of decentralized applications. Let me just check again. I think, okay, no questions yet. One, please can someone spell the cassava app? Is it possible for me to design and deploy restaurants, franchise, ordering meals when I'm done with training with Ethereum Nigeria? Okay, Dean. Yes, it's very possible. Of course, I'm looking at our 2024 calendar. You have a lot of stuff. We are going to improve a lot of people technically and otherwise. So, but for this bootcamp, after this bootcamp, of course, we are sure you have a broader knowledge of the blockchain, broader knowledge of smart contracts and Ethereum, and of course, decentralized applications. But to actually build on the blockchain, you need to learn Solidity, right? And if you have zero knowledge on coding, you've not coded before, you have zero knowledge on software engineering, software development, then you need to go and start from scratch, right? You need to learn the basics, and of course, before coming up to Web3. Of course, you can always learn Solidity, but writing the smart contract is one thing, and getting the smart contract to interact with the blockchain is another thing. So you have to go back to the basics and then learn from there. So I won't look at this chart for now. I seem to be answering questions. Let's just complete the class and all the questions will be addressed at the end. So let's look at some use cases, some protocols that actually use decentralized application. Of course, like I mentioned, there are a lot of them. Some of them include decentralized exchanges. Now, these decentralized exchanges are just like our regular exchanges, but there is no middleman, of course, because it's decentralized. Now, an exchange is where you go to, of course, trade your cryptocurrency. You have Bitcoin and you want to exchange it for Ethereum, you can go to an exchange and do that. So the problem with centralized exchanges is that they give you a custodial wallet, and with the custodial wallet, they have control over your assets. So They could choose to freeze your asset. And of course, if you have asset on the protocol and then they are going through, or let's say the protocol has been scammed or something and they are losing funds, you won't be able to send out your funds because they'll freeze it. You won't be able to send it out because they have control over your wallet. They give you a username and password, so you can always go there, trade your crypto and all of that. But decentralized exchanges, for example, Uniswap. Uniswap is one of the major decentralized exchanges used. And of course, we have PancakeSwap and the rest. But these decentralized exchanges, these are smart contracts. Of course, Uniswap is a decentralized app that utilizes smart contracts for people to be able to exchange any cryptocurrency for another. Of course, it knows the value and all of that. It's a bit more complex than that, but basically what they do is you can take any cryptocurrency, go to the Uniswap protocol. Of course, cryptocurrencies that are listed there, right? It's not all you, so you're not just going to build your own or create your own with zero value and go to exchange it for Bitcoin. It doesn't work like that. So they actually have listed coins you can swap. And of course, this whole process is handled by a smart contract. So that means it is fair, it is transparent, it is verifiable, and it is, of course, fast. You get your, if you're swapping whatsoever you're swapping for, you can be rest assured that you receive it because it's handled by a smart contract. And also, another use case is in decentralized finance, right? So, more in decentralized finance is just an upgrade because at the end of the day, every decentralized finance protocol is actually a decentralized application, right? So, a decentralized finance, of course, has to do with the financial aspect or the financial sector in a decentralized way. Like, for instance, MakerDAO. I mentioned Uniswap earlier. MakerDAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Of course, what they do basically is they provide liquidity. Now, liquidity is when you are going to swap your crypto, right? So whatever crypto you want to swap for, somebody must have put that crypto there because you can't just generate something that does not exist. So there are people that actually provide their, like for instance, let's say I want to provide liquidity on the Uniswap protocol. So I have Ethereum and I have Bitcoin. So I take my Bitcoin and my Ethereum and I put it in the Uniswap smart contract in the Uniswap protocol, and then I say for everybody that exchanges Ethereum for Bitcoin, I get a particular commission, a particular fee from that. Of course, you can always take out all your money when you want, but you get a particular commission for that. So every time somebody exchanges that, you get your commission. And remember, this is a smart contract. It's not controlled by anybody. So everything is fair and square. So Makada, of course, Katana and the rest, these are all um, decentralized applications that function in the decentralized finance sector. And we look at decentralized finance, of course, in the last week of our bootcamp, we look at decentralized finance. So another thing, use case here, I mentioned decentralized storage. You can actually store data on the blockchain. Of course, we have Falcon, IPFS, of course, doing that. And those are what some of the major protocols that actually facilitates decentralized storage. So we have Falcon, we have IPFS, we have storage and the rest. Of course, you can also the non-fungible token marketplace, of course, NFTs and tokens. Like we created tokens last week. So just the same way we created our ERC20 tokens. Of course, we follow the same procedure. And on Third Web, which is the no coding tool, you can actually see other things you can actually build, and you don't have to write one line of smart contract. So you can actually try other things at your spare time. If you want to mint your own NFT, of course, just take your picture, throw it somewhere, either on Filecoin or IPFS, get that's what they call the URI, the image link. So you get that link, go back to third web, and of course you can mint your NFT with your face on the blockchain and verify it with your wallet. You can even send it to somebody. So of course there are other use cases for decentralized applications like play to earn games. I know sometimes one or two times there were some games that came up and they tell you play this game, you win this amount of coins and all of that. I don't know if anybody has come across that because they are pay to earn games that actually utilize the blockchain. The more you play, get some level up, they reward you with some tokens and all of that. Of course, there are some of those games. Crypto Blades was actually one, Black Coliseum and the rest. Of course, we can also use the decentralized application for social media. Of course, I know a lot of people think blockchain is just about transaction and the rest, but we can actually use that for social media. Uh, there are protocols like Steemit and PP that are doing that. There are a lot of use cases for decentralized application. You can use it also for identity management, where you can actually verify to someone your identity uh, without actually giving that identity out. So there are protocols like Solo Labs, of course. These are decentralized applications that uh, f- facilitates identity management. So, but in all good things, there are always challenges, right? So let's look at some of the challenges of decentralized applications. So the first one is scalability. Like we mentioned, transactions on the blockchain are often a bit slow, and of course, sometimes if the network traffic is high, the transaction fee, the gas fee becomes high also. So scalability is one of the problems of decentralized application. But of course, over the years, there have been a lot of work put in to actually make blockchain more scalable. We have side chains like Gnosis chain and the rest. We also have layer two solutions like Polygon and the rest that actually those were developed to solve the problem of scalability. And of course, with zero knowledge and a lot of stuff going on the blockchain, of course, in the nearest future, I'm sure this problem of fast transactions and low gas fees would come to pass. So another thing is scalability. This has to do with the technical part because you need knowledge of technical know-how. You need to know some programming languages and have experience in some of them to actually write smart contracts, deploy them on the blockchain, build the application, then integrate your smart contract into your application, and then it becomes a decentralized application. Of course, sometimes the user experience is not too friendly. Like we noticed for those of us that tried to deploy our tokens last week, you would notice that once you send a transaction, you have to wait for a few seconds. Sometimes, yeah, a few seconds to actually get that transaction confirmed. So, unlike on our regular apps where you just click a button and it's on the go on the fly. So, the user experience actually on the Web3 space is, of course, goes back to our issue with scalability where we're trying to get faster transactions with lower gas fees. And of course, there are a lot of work that is currently being done now and has already been done to actually mitigate this issue. And of course, I'm very sure in the nearest future, all of these issues will be mitigated. So, what does the future look like for Ethereum? Of course, there are many evolving standards that are coming up. Of course, decentralized apps are trying to improve, of course, as the day goes by. And of course, the second one is the mainstream adoption. More people need to use the blockchain. The blockchain has to be accepted. Some governments actually ban the blockchain. So all of this stuff are some of the few what to look at the future. That in the nearest future, of course, many more people will actually adopt the blockchain because right now a lot of major corporations, major companies are actually adopting the blockchain. So even in the banking system, they use the blockchain. I know that in Nigeria actually they use the Hyperledger blockchain because eNaira is actually deployed on. I don't know. We are all familiar with eNaira, right? So eNaira is actually deployed on Hyperledger, which is a private blockchain. And of course, most banks in Nigeria actually utilize Hyperledger blockchain also, but we think they are not adopting it. Most corporations are actually adopting blockchain. So in the nearest future, of course, we are looking at more improved standards of decentralized applications, and of course, the mainstream adoption of these decentralized applications. So I think I've talked for a while. That's the lecture for today. So I'll take questions now. Mr. Benga, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hope we've been able to learn one thing or the other from this class. So if you have any question, like this is a time for you to ask. If you have any question at all as regards to this class or any other class, or you have anything bothering you as regards the blockchain, this is the best time to ask. So there's no question. Okay, you guys can go on.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Aite, for that session. Okay, so I've always wondered about the whole concept of DApp, and I just wanted clarity on how it's built on the blockchain. Is it that what makes it a DApp, and the whole idea of it being built on a blockchain is just the smart contracts that we are integrating into it, or there are other things that needs to be done for it to be a DApp, in quotes. Thank you very much. That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Isa. Well, you don't need to do much for a DApp. A DApp is just a regular application that is integrated into the blockchain through smart contracts. So if you are building a decentralized application, of course, you need to write your smart contract and what you want the application to do. Then, of course, after writing the smart contract, which is Web3, you now have to build the application just like every other application. If you are building a mobile app, of course, you need to know Java or React Native. If you are building a web app for the website and stuff, yeah, React Native, of course, and a little backend. But at the end of the day, the fusion of this smart contract and this application that has been built is what is called a decentralized application, because the smart contract actually eliminates all the central authority, the single entity, the servers that are supposed to control the functionality of the application, just like a regular application. So it takes away all of those, the Amazons, the Googles, and the Microsoft takes that all away. And you can use the application via the smart contract to interact with the blockchain, which is decentralized. So that's basically how it works. I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, thank you so much. You did. Okay, so I have a follow-up question. I think the last time we met, we made use of, you showed us around third web how to build a smart contract without coding. So if we want to design a DApp, can we as well use that application to design the smart code without coding the smart contract and then integrate it to the application using React or any of the programming language? Thank you.
Okay, so it depends on your logic. If you go to third web, you see that there are already pre-audited standard smart contracts for token creation, for marketplaces, and all of this stuff. So if if your logic is centered around all of that, you want to make an airdrop, you want to do this, they already have those smart contracts for you. So all you have to do is just deploy it. And then of course, you need to have an application that will integrate with this smart contract, right? So you already have your application written in React with maybe a backend like Node.js. Then you take your smart contract, integrate it with sometimes you may not even need the backend, because nowadays there's a trend of what they call Web3 front end. You just build your front end and interact directly with the blockchain without the need for a backend. So let's assume, but for this class, let's assume, of course, we are building a standard application, the backend, which is of course, the logic, and the front end, which is the user interface. So you can then take your smart contract, which you have deployed on third web. Of course, remember, you can always verify the functions, even on third web, the write functions and the read functions. The one that actually changes the state, like the one that would cause the blockchain to actually change state, or like, for instance, transactions, signing, and all of that. And the read functions, which let's say maybe you want to check the balance of something, or you want to check if a particular transaction went through. Of course, those are read functions. It doesn't change the state of the blockchain. So on the third web, you see all of these functions. So depending on your logic, you can use it. But if what you want to build is different from what's on third web, then you have to write your own logic from scratch. I hope I answered your question.
So any other question? I see someone else is raising hand.
Yeah,
Ubuna.
I have. Can I speak up now?
Okay, you can go on. You can go on.
Okay. My question is from the last, the one on smart contracts. I noticed that we were going between too many websites for me: MetaMask, Open Zeppelin, Sepola. So I want to find out, is it possible to have a sequence? Because it's a bit confusing. So I know this, go here, after this step, you go to this one, after this one, you go to the next website. So it's kind of confusing. I attempted it, but I would like a more straightforward sequence. If it's possible to have that in a written form, so I know what to check, know the steps to follow.
Okay, thank you very much. Adediran, I hope I pronounce your name well.
Yes, it is.
So, first and foremost, for all our lectures, like I said at the beginning of the class, all our lectures are recorded, right? So you can find the recording for that lecture on YouTube. Search for Ethereum Nigeria on YouTube. The lectures are properly labeled. So if you are looking for the lecture for week 2, like the one you have mentioned, the last class would be week 2,
week 2, lecture 3.
Yeah, so if you go to YouTube / Ethereum Nigeria, on our videos, you actually see week 3, lecture 3. So you can always rewatch the class. But basically, we weren't jumping from say side to side. What happened was that we looked at 2 different no coding tools that we can use to actually deploy tokens, a smart contract. And we looked at third web, and then we also looked at Open Zeppelin. To actually start talking about that all over is going to eat much of our time. So I'll just advise that you can look through the YouTube, of course, watch it, pause it, rewatch it, and at your own convenience. Everything is, I don't think you would have a problem after watching it. But if you do still have challenges after rewatching it, of course, the Telegram channel is there. You can always reach out to any of us, or just drop your question there and we'll answer you from there. Is that okay?
Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks.
Okay. I saw that you made mention of MetaMask, Sepolia, Third Web. Should in case you miss any of the class, you can always like refer back to the YouTube channel. Because I think justice has been done to MetaMask. We've talked about wallets and we've talked about test network, Sepolia. So the last class was when he made mention of Third Web and Open Sepalin, which are just no-code tools for interacting with the blockchain. So if you should miss any class, just refer back to the YouTube channel. All our videos are there. So anyone with any question again, Ogbon, I think you were raising up your hand.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me,
Okay,
sir?
yes, I can hear you. You can go on.
Okay. Okay. I have 3 questions, but 2 of them are more like direction. Then the last one is the question. The first one is about I was trying to work on the third web. Then when I reached that place where they asked to impute my bank details, the thing was just turning around. I think I was trying to send it to Saitete. I don't know if it went through around there. And since that time, I've not been able to get past that position on that page. Then the second one was on my Open Zeppelin. I tried to shift it to Remix. When I did shift it to Remix, it was not compiling the code. It did not finish compiling the code. It was just showing compiling, was just turning like that, as if it's a loop, and it did not compile. So I could not proceed to the next stage. That is the problem that I have with the assignment that I've not been able to do. Then my last question is this. This is actually my question. Please, which app do we actually use to interact with these coins where they do the sweat drop and sweat coins and stuff like that, where they do some airdropping and all those kind of things? Is it a special app that they use to interact with these things, or how exactly is it done? Because I know I've heard of that exercise one that they give you a token. Do you have to join? Do you have to be whitelisted? How does it go? How is it actually? Thank you.
Okay. For the first or for the last one, different platforms, different protocols have different ways of airdropping, right? Some of them you could engage in activities on their Discord, and of course you'll be airdropped. Some you could engage in activities on their Telegram, and you could be airdropped. And some other, they have many protocols, many platforms they use, depending on um, the concept of that community of that app. But I would advise you on airdrops, because airdrops are dangerous, right? So except unless you actually trust the protocol, you shouldn't be receiving airdrops, because it's a blockchain. So most airdrops could come embedded with some kind of, normally before you receive airdrops, you have to sign and sign and sign on your wallets. Most times people don't know what they're accepting. So you could have a malicious actor that could airdrop you, and in the same time you are giving that person access to your wallet. It could be you're approving the person to spend funds on your behalf, or you're approving the person to. So airdrops are usually very then. Most scammers use airdrops because they know people like free things, right? So if they are able to get into your wallet, see how much you have, they can easily take it out. Because why, you had during the time of receiving the airdrop, I'm sure something will pop up for you to actually accept. So you would sign it, you sign that agreement, that transaction without knowing it. That's for the airdrops. And different people have different protocols. Then for the MetaMask, and can you phrase the second question again, please?
My second question was, when I was trying to do the remix, I still have a screen, but I don't know if I'll be able to post it here. When I did the remix, the thing was showing compiling, because I found out that you had to finish compiling before you can now put in your
Deploy, yeah.
wallet address, yes, and deploy. So it was just showing that compiling. I used Control S, I redo it, I tapped, the thing was just going in that loop, and it did not actually finish compiling. I don't know who's responsible for that.
But it didn't show any error. Like there
It
was
did
no
not show
error.
error.
Okay, yeah.
It's
So
as if it
most
did not
times,
finish compiling.
Yeah, I think what should cause that first, maybe slow internet could cause that because Remix is a runtime environment on the web, so it's kind of very heavy in terms of the amount of data that it uses to load its page first and foremost, and also all the functionalities. So if it was a network problem, generally just try to refresh it and try it again. But if you try to compile it and it gives you an error, that means there's a problem with the code. But if it doesn't give you an error, it's probably your network.
Okay. Okay.
Now, I've answered all your questions here.
Sir, that last question that you answered, I was not totally satisfied because of that. I was talking about that sweat coin. I don't know, is that also a malicious environment too? Or because I know that some of them are Discord, but there are some that they check your GPS, knowing how you move, and then based on that, they can now give you free coins
So
or
what's
something
the
like
what's
that.
the app you called again? I'm trying to get the name.
I don't know the name too, but I know one of my friends the friend that introduced me to Ethereum Nigeria, he told me about it, that he was once doing that. I don't know the name, whether they give it on Solana or one other coin, that once you're moving, you're exercising, they would like your movement, how many steps you make. If you reach maybe 10,000 steps or so, they give free airdrops that day on people that reach a certain amount of steps.
Okay, I don't know about this protocol, but it's common practice for especially decentralized communities that are trying to onboard people. So they actually do all this stuff, maybe simple tasks that anybody can do so that they can receive their tokens and all of that. Example, just like that working app, some decentralized applications would tell you either in a day you should mint something, either mine something and all of that. That was back then anyway. So they have evolved. Back then, it was all about mining. It was a simple task once a day in your phone, you just accept something. So now um, everything is evolving. So now most of these startup Web3 protocols actually give simple tasks like walking, simple questions to answer. So if you know the name of the protocol, but I didn't say that all of them are fake or something. I said you should be careful. You should be sure that whichever protocol you want to receive their airdrop, you should actually do your background check because it's easy for you to receive airdrops, but if it's a malicious actor, that kind of activity cannot be reversed. You just need to stop using that wallet because as long as you are using that wallet, the malicious actor will always have access to it. And it becomes dangerous if you have apart from tokens, let's say that particular wallet, you're a member of a Web3 community and probably a membership NFT was minted to that wallet that is not transferable. So you need that wallet to actually communicate with members of your community. So it's dangerous. I didn't say you should not receive it, right? I don't know the app you are talking about, but the one I talked about was Cassava. Cassava actually has a feature like that. Cassava is built on Polygon, and of course, I'm not saying go and download it too. I'm not advertising Cassava. I'm just saying that at least I can validate for them, right? I can validate for them because I know the people behind it. So I can say, okay, I trust these people. But I'm not saying go and start downloading it too. But if you want to, right, you can earn free Cassava coins with it. So any other question, please? So that we're already far into our time. People are asking for attendance.
Okay, can we get the attendance now?
The attendance is on the group, the chat.
Okay, let's kindly view the attendance. And while we round up, let's put in mind that whatever you've learned today, try and teach people through. You can write a post about it on Twitter.
Okay, guys. So one more thing before I forget. This last week, our bounty hunt race was very tight. Of course, nobody brought it up today, but some people have been messaging me for it. So the bounty winners will be announced. Of course, everything will be announced. We'll see it probably at the end of today or early in the morning, right? Because we had to go back and check. We appreciate the fact that many people participated in it, and of course, we want everybody to be winners, but we can only have one winner at a time. So we had to go back to check for who did what at the fastest time. So, but it's improvement to the last one. So, the winners will of course be announced. Let's say tomorrow morning. So, and also this week we are having another Twitter space for those that joined our last Twitter space and engaged with us. I'm sure a lot of you were very much okay. Moses, please go ahead. Moses, your hand is up. Please go ahead. Okay, while wait for okay. Okay, Moses, if you are speaking, we can't hear you. Okay, so back to what I was saying. I was saying that we'll be having another Twitter space this week. Of course, the schedule for that will, of course, be disseminated to all of us. For those that joined the last Twitter space, we can tell it was, of course, very, very rewarding. So we are looking at something even better this week, and we've been able to also get quality people in the space to also help improve our knowledge gap. So please stay tuned for that information, which of course will be shared to all of us in the soonest time. So, in the absence of any other question, Mr. Benga, please.
Sorry, sorry. There was kind of noisy here. So, in the absence of no question, we'll be rounding up. And as I was saying earlier, once you are done with classes like this, I would always like encourage you, make a post about what you are doing. It's always good to document your journey. You never know who is watching. So once you are done with a class like this and you've learned one or two things, write a post about what you've learned, document your journey. So in 1 year, 2 years to come, you can look back and say, oh, I remember when I was still learning this thing. I remember when I just started learning about blockchain. So do well to always document your journey, and we we can't teach you everything. Ethereum Nigeria can't teach you everything. We can only serve as a guide, point you in the right direction. So still put in extra effort, read more about the ecosystem, and also try as much as possible to contribute. In as much as you are being watered, try as much as also to teach other people what you know, and look for a way you can also like add value to Ethereum Nigeria. So that's all. So it's a wrap already. We'll be having our next class, and this time will be discussed with everyone. So I would like us to appreciate our teacher, Mr. Eteta. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this section. Good night, everyone.